Hello, company, and welcome to Show People, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry, covering the latest news and issues, what to see and do, and showcasing theatrical talent, whilst always trying to inform, educate, and entertain. Hello, my name is Andrew Keates. I'm a director and your host. Now, in short, today's guest only ever seems to play fit guys. He's been Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Raoul in The Phantom of the Opera, Enjolras in Les Mis, Larkin in Hairspray, even Fiyero in Wicked, just to name but a few. But of course, I shan't leave you in any more anticipation. Please welcome Mr. Liam Tamne!
Hey, hello.
Welcome to the show, Liam.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Coming up on today's show, on the Soapbox, Liam and I will be discussing televised competitions. Are they worth the risk? I'll be covering all the latest dramatic news. On the platform, we have Liam Tamne's entry Astronaut for Eurovision You Decide, which could be our song entry in this year's Eurovision Song Contest. And of course, I'll be interviewing Liam Tamne all about his life, career, and setting him some infamous Show People challenges too. You're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates and Liam Tamne. Mr. Tamne, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, amazing to be here.
It is an absolute pleasure. So you've been busy being interviewed for Eurovision today.
Full on. So many interviews, so much press, so much literally getting to rehearsals, rehearsing for Eurovision You Decide, and then also fittings. It's stupid little things that you forget that it ends up being, and then I have to fit in the gym, should we add in there at the same time. So you end up having days where I'll be messaging you, as you saw, at stupid o'clock in the morning, and then having to be up at stupid o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, but it's worth it, though. It's fun.
So how did you get involved in Eurovision?
Yeah, so Eurovision came about, actually. I was in pantomime. I was doing it at the Wimbledon. The new Wimbledon Theatre. Yeah, just up the road, with Al Murray and Clive Rowe.
Yeah.
So, and the BBC contacted my agent, and they were like, is this something that Liam would be interested in? And I was like, well, I'm a massive Eurovision fan, so, I mean, it's pretty illegal to be gay and not like Eurovision. So, yeah, exactly. So it came about, and then I was like, well, hold up, I have to like the song, because there's no point in me doing it with not liking the song. And so I listened to the song, and I was like, this is good. This is me. This is where my voice sits really comfortably. I was like, I think this is a strong chance. I never heard any of the other artists' songs, but I was like, I think I have a strong chance here.
I do love Eurovision, and I enjoy Eurovision. I know there are crazy Eurovision fans, like people who can name every entry, every song, every year. Have you got to that level now? Are you a sort of Eurovision fanatic, or are you just someone who respects what it's all about?
I think I'm more of the respect what it's all about. Because the thing is, I do love what it is about, and the fact that it is a show where it's all about bringing people together to celebrate music, to celebrate life, essentially, like equality, like the message that it actually sends out to the rest of the world. I mean, we have to remember it's the second most watched thing in the world. So the first is the Super Bowl, and the second is Eurovision with 250 million viewers.
I mean, those kind of numbers, I mean, I know you've played really big houses, but I can't even get my head around that number of people that could potentially be watching you on that big night.
It's crazy. But do you know what the thing is, though? We know, like, actors do enjoy performing and being slightly on the edge and nervous. And I find that that's probably when I've done the best performances I've ever done, where I've been so nervous. And like, I take, for instance, like other TV shows that I've been on or other productions. And it's always been when I've been right on that edge of like, am I going to be able to do this? And then I do. And I think that's the thing. And I think that's why I thrive a little bit on pressure. Yeah. I enjoy it. Even though it petrifies me, it's the outcome that just going out there and going, I've got one chance. I've got to do this.
I find certainly that to have this country putting out that we are still a part of Eurovision, we love, this is about art, this is about songwriting, this is about Europe. From a liberal, I really like that.
Yeah.
But of course, from other countries' perspectives, we're the ones who don't want to be a part of Europe anymore.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think my thoughts on it's no matter what your political beliefs are, I think we have to remember what's important. And what is important is the message that we send out. It is the fact of coming together. And I think for me, like I say, it's so personal to me because it's the place where you can actually be there and not have to hide behind who you actually are. And I think that's the thing. And I think no matter what, like, people say, oh, why are we doing this? Or why are we still a part of this? My thing is, why not? Because if it brings joy to so many people that feel like they don't get heard or they're pushed behind, or I talk a lot about my sexuality and also the colour of my skin. And there have been times when I've been discriminated because of both of those things. But now, how fortunate that we are that we can live in a country where you can be this colour of the skin, you can actually work, you can be successful, and you can marry a man, and do you know what I mean? And talk about it. And I think that's the message that I'd like to go out and show people, because there are places in Europe that still frown upon that message. So I think that's why we should remain in Eurovision.
You've been listening to the show in the bath, I hear.
Yes, I have. So bad, doesn't it?
Not at all. Not at all. I'd rather the bath than the toilet.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I have a Show People challenge, which you've been anticipating. But I'm getting wiser as I get older, because people are now really memorising their CVs. So I have a totally different challenge for you, Liam.
Oh, wow. This is interesting.
I have, for the first time ever, a Show People Eurovision channel.
Oh, no.
How amazing is this? I've tried to find some slightly musical theatre related Eurovision-y questions. Okay. I don't expect you to get any of them right, because I didn't know the answers.
Let's have a go, though.
But let's give it a go. Liam Tamne, your Show People challenge starts now. Okay, who said they would rather stick pins in their eyes than repeat the Eurovision experience?
Oh, gosh, not Michael Ball.
It was Michael Ball.
Was it Michael Ball? Yes.
Very good. Which subsequently famous songwriting team had their effort rejected as an entry by the United Kingdom in 1969?
69? I don't know.
Do you pass?
Pass.
It was Elton John and Bernie Taupin.
No.
Which country won the Eurovision Song Contest in 2004?
2004. Oh, this is embarrassing. Come on, Liam. You do know this. You've studied this.
Pass.
Pass. It wasn't Sweden, was it?
Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine.
Ireland has the best record, winning 7 times in 37 outings. Who was involved bringing the trophy home of 3 of those occasions? They have won 37 times. You can't give yourself a break.
Oh, I don't know.
It was Johnny Logan.
Oh.
And finally, let's finish. I've finished. Which of the following acts failed to win the trophy for the UK? A. Bucks Fizz, B. Cliff Richard, C. Lulu, or D. Sandy Shaw?
It's between the last two. So I know Bucks Fizz won.
Saying about the person who won, Liam.
Oh, we're saying who won?
Yep.
Oh, who won? Bucks Fizz?
Oh, no, failed to win. Failed to win. So Bucks Fizz, won.
Yeah. And then who was the first one again?
B was Cliff Richard. C was Lulu. And D was Sandy Shaw.
I'm going to go with Sandy. No!
It was Cliff Richard.
Cliff! He didn't win.
No, he didn't. In fact, I have in front of me. So this is what I was...
sad.
What's amazing is...
So Sandy Shaw won?
Yeah, we have Cliff Richard came second in 1968 with Congratulations.
Yes.
And then he entered again... and did Power to All Our Friends in 73, and he came third.
I see.
But there's also... So can you name anybody else in musical theatre who has done Eurovision?
I know of Lucy Jones, obviously.
Very, very good. Let's go...
And Michael Ball.
Michael Ball's One Step at a Time. Jade Ewan with Lloyd Webber's My Time, 2009.
Musical theatre, who else? I bet there's a few, isn't there?
There is.
Is there a lot? Oh, well, Duncan James was in Blue.
I said musical theatre artists. Yes, Duncan from Blue sang I Can, which came 11th in 2011. Also, 1974, Olivia Newton-John sang Long Live Love, and she came fourth.
Ah, I actually did not know that.
It won't surprise you. It is immensely camp.
Really?
And very obvious one here. She'll be devastated you didn't get this. 1994, Francis Raffel.
Yeah, I did know this.
Lonely Symphony, We Will Be Free. She came 10th. Jade Ewan we've got, Blue we've got. Now, you could be very tenuous, because obviously Cliff Richard was in Time in the West End, so you can argue that. And, of course, Graham Norton as commentator.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And his triumphant role in
there
Lacage.
You go, exactly.
And a friend of the show, Alexis Gerard.
Okay, yeah.
Who got to where you are at the moment, but sadly didn't go any further forward. Even in Eurovision, the West End performers find their way down to those casting directors. I don't know.
I love it.
Coming up, I'll be talking to Liam all about whether it's worth entering televised competitions, the highs and the lows.
Hi, I'm Alexis Gerard, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the brilliant Andrew Keates. And I mean that, and not just because he slipped me a cheeky 20.
Thank you, Alexis. It's time for the Soapbox, the part of the show where we discuss an industry issue. And today I'm talking to Liam about what it's like to enter these reality TV shows and indeed Eurovision.
Yes.
So, Liam, as I said to you, I'm not really a fan of The Voice.
Yes.
But I do have my fair share of reality TV shows. So before you arrived today, I found myself sort of binge watching as much as I could to get an idea of what it was like to do that show.
Yeah.
High drama.
Yeah, real high drama. It was actually the biggest, the series 2 was the biggest massive drama, and the amount of complaints that the actual BBC had received on The Voice.
What were people complaining about?
They complained when I left. They were at something like 7-something million viewers, and then it dropped to 3-point-something million viewers.
After I
left, because it was an hour and a half episode, and it dropped instantly at that point, because I was around halfway through the episode.
That's quite reassuring. Just for your own psyche.
I agree. It could have been that people were just switching over to like watch something else on another program, but let's just go with they were all supporting me.
No, Liam Tamne, fuck this. I'm not watching anymore. I've had various friends do various competitions. Some are celebrities that have done celebrity programs, which I'm not really going to count. But I've also had friends who are West End performers through and through, and then they appear in these shows, and I respond in two different ways.
Yeah.
Maybe because I know just how much you guys have worked in regards to training,
yes,
in regards to working on a production, the grafting, the sheer amount of commitment you have to do. And then there's this kind of, how do I put it, almost get out of jail free card, where everything you've done before, and often these shows do say, I'm fed up of being a background dancer.
Yeah.
And I worry a little bit that people are going to perceive really credible artists as being amateurs that, just want their 5 minutes in the spotlight when I go, one of your credible performers you've trained.
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. I mean, I look at it so different, though. I have a very American mentality in how I work. That's why I tend to do a lot of things, and I tend to keep relationships open with American composers, directors, producers. Is because of my mentality is we have this stigma in the UK where it seems to be quite frowned upon when someone does something like this. But I think it's no different to someone going into a soap. I think it's no different to someone doing a job that, like an episode on Doctors or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's just equal. It's work. And I think at the end of the day, if someone wants to do this, then I don't see how it can hinder. I can see if they obviously play a card of saying that they're not proud of what they've done and they feel like they deserve more. Nobody deserves anything. I think you work for what you get. It's like I'm a huge believer in, if someone slams the door in my face, I've gone to the next door and opened it and I'm creating the next opportunity. And I think that's how I've always been. I had a great opportunity to work with Stephen Schwartz on his latest project of Prince of Egypt, but it just didn't fruition. It didn't go out. It didn't work out. And then this came along. And I just think if things come along and you want to do it, I think just do it, because it's only a British thing. If you look at a lot of the people in America, it's because musical theatre is more respected over in America in comparison to in the UK. And I think that's the thing. And I think if we, as the industry, if we ourselves sort of don't respect someone's decision to go on something and do it, then I think we're already telling people how to behave instead of allowing them to actually do what they want to do, because it doesn't weaken us unless they badmouth it. It only goes, well, I'd like to think I represent our theatre community in a positive way and that people are proud, because I mean, I went on, like we said, The Voice, and I had 4 coaches turn for me. I then, do you know what I mean? I'm on Eurovision. It's been whittled down to 6 people, and they came to me. So it's whether they want me or whatever the public takes to me, or I end up getting it. I think it's more to do with how amazing that he's representing that we're more than just what you perceive us to be.
Absolutely. And I suppose maybe then what it's saying about these shows is they are in some way or another lesser forms. I suppose that's what's being said. I remember on The Voice, as everybody does, when Kerry Ellis went on it. Somehow the crowd all absolutely knew that she was, the girl from Wicked, and no one turned. Now, I don't think that's affected Kerry's career, but it must have felt really embarrassing at the very least.
Yeah, I think there's an element of, if I don't get picked for Eurovision, there'll be a slight bit of embarrassment. But
really?
I think so. I think it's normal. I think as performers, we don't go into something wanting to not be first.
Sure.
You go into it because you want to be selected and you want the job. And I think the more we speak about it, the better. Yeah. It's like, I'll be really honest with you. When I did The Voice, sounds arrogant, but I was pretty confident I think I could get them to turn because of the song choice. I knew it was a song that is so relatable. I knew it was a song that was very hard to sing.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would impress them because it is a tough song for a guy to sing.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I didn't think I'd get all 4, but I knew I'd get 1 at least. And I thought it'd be Jessie that would turn first. So when I went on that, and then the whole thing, when we talk about everything and stuff, I openly talk about my experience on The Voice, which was a positive, but also a huge negative, which was the whole thing for me it was quite daunting. I've played so many characters. I've been very fortunate to work hard for where I've got to in my career and continue to be a jobbing actor. And then I go on a show and I sort of expose Liam Tamne, this is me. And it was really hard for me to digest when I got kicked off. I felt like I had failed. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And it was a whole learning process. And it was something that I talk about. I would say I was depressed. My anxiety just went through the roof. I was ashamed. But it was
did it really affect you that much?
Yeah, it did. But do you know what? This is the thing, and this is why I know I'm ready for Eurovision now, because that was my learning lesson. And it's one of the things I saw a video that a friend of mine sent me actually on Facebook. And it was saying about, I think Will Smith says it, but then this great guy that's like a speaker, and he says about failing forward and how we have this massive thing of fear of failure. And actually failure is a really good thing because it teaches us. It's like, I don't have any regrets really. There's only one regret I have, and that is it. But the rest, they're all lessons of the mistakes that I've made to learn from and to know. And that's the thing. And I think there is an element of me being quite frightened. But when I was on The Voice, it was more of a personal growth of my life. It strained on my relationship. And then obviously with my boyfriend, he was my boyfriend, but then obviously we're married now. And it was a really hard time. And all my friends and family come together, and I seeked help because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I speak about it because I think once we speak about these issues, it's a lot easier. Hence why we're sat here now. And I think there might be someone that's going through the same things, as small as something as like not getting into a college or university or a performing arts school. And you've got to talk about it because
that feeling as well. It's funny you say that because, of course, it's putting literally all of your hopes on someone else's decision.
Exactly.
I suppose the reason I'm so fascinated by it, for our fee, I know a mutual friend of ours gave some great advice on one of the earliest episodes where someone at a drama school said to him, look, the best advice that he'd ever received was, after an audition, give yourself the time it takes to drink a pint to decide how you thought that audition went, and then when you finish it, it's done. So whether it was good, whether it was bad, don't entertain that anymore. And I love that advice.
It's true.
But I wonder how many jobs have I gone to go for, had a really lovely interview and a lovely lunch and thought I'd got that, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
The idea of them broadcasting that for the nation to see must feel like almost opening a part of you that you keep so private and compartmentalized.
Yeah, no, I agree. But do you know what? I'm realizing as I'm getting older, like, who was it that said to me, a really good friend of mine said, you're here to learn, but then you're here to pass it on. And it's true, like you're here, and especially in the theatre industry, you are here to offer your, do you know what? It was my teacher. It was Tudor Davis who actually said it to me. He actually said, you're here to learn, but then you're here to pass it on.
Yeah.
So, and you'll get to that point. And I'm realising that is part of my job as a leading man in the West End, but also as someone that's so open about, like I've discussed, like my sexuality, the colour of my skin, how difficult it's been at times to get jobs, or how some people have been like, how have you played that role? Or why?
Really?
Yeah, like Larkin, was because it's a show about race. Is, I can't argue that. I took a job and they offered me the job and they told me that you look Italian. And it's not that I say if you're not the right heritage, you shouldn't play the role at all. That's not the case. But they said Larkin is an Italian-American guy and that's how you got the role.
The last question I'll ask just about these competitions, because of course there will be people thinking, damn, I can't get into drama school.
Yeah.
Or that they've gone for their fifth time being hall number 3 in Les Mis and they're still not, progressing. Do you think doing these shows have helped your career?
Like Les Mis and stuff like that, or any of the shows I've done?
As in, do you think any of the television contests?
Oh, television contests.
Do you think that gives you a higher chance to get work?
No.
No, I don't.
No, it doesn't, because I would say it helps when it comes to things like pantomimes, because people know you from a TV show or they've followed you. But in terms of West End shows, no. In terms of TV, no. I still have to audition just like everybody else. And there are some jobs that come my way and I don't have to, but that's because the director has worked with me or the producer knows me or the director wants to work with me. But however, no, I think I still go out there as a jobbing actor and I audition and I enjoy that process. That process it's frightening because we have bills to pay. We've got to live. We've got to put food on our plate, essentially. But now I'm vegan, not much food. But it's still important for us to want to achieve. And I think that's the thing. And I don't think it has helped, but I think it probably has helped in the sense of, for me, more than anything.
I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone speak so kindly about the process, but also being so honest about how it affected them. So, Liam, thank you for being so open about that.
Worries.
Listeners, what do you think? We'd love to hear from you. Do you think that reality TV shows are a waste of time, or do you think it's an investment in your career? Please do tweet the show at ShowPeopleUK and use hashtag ShowPeoplePodcast, or join the Show People Podcast Listeners Forum at facebook.com/ShowPeoplePodcast. Give the page a like and join in the conversation, as if we don't talk about these things, well, we can't change them.
Hello, this is Rufus Hound, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. But the real question is, what are you doing while you're listening? Stop touching that, you filthy bastard.
Liam Tamne, let's start at the very beginning.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this. Coventry lad.
Yes.
What was life like for you growing up?
It was great. Like, Coventry's, funny enough, it's just won the Culture Award, which is amazing. And they've got the festival. They've just announced that they're doing the BBC On the Road festival. And it's really put its stamp, should we say, in the UK. And it doesn't seem to be that place, send them to Coventry anymore. It seems to be a place where it's like, actually, there's a lot of really good people that have come from Coventry, great singers, great actors, great sportsmen and women, and it's a really great place. I was very fortunate, though, and I think this is more down to my mum and dad, because I did face discrimination growing up, but not to the level of what some people did in other places of the UK, whereas I actually didn't know that I was of different skin colour till I actually went to secondary school. Yeah. So I was actually 12, and it's because I had a black dad and I had a white mum, and my cousins were mixed race, and my friends were white, my friends were black, my friends were Indian. I literally had so many different heritages around me and ethnicities, and I think I was very fortunate, and that's, I think, down to Coventry, how diverse it actually really is.
I suppose the only time you learned that you were different is when it was people that all at the same started to tell you were different.
Yeah. And also, and it was even not as many people, because I went to quite a really mixed school. I think it was more just to, do you know when you get into stupid arguments with friends and then they throw a little comment that obviously is racist, and I didn't know it was racist, and I thought, oh, this is so funny. And I went home and then sat around the table, and my dad was like, asking about how the day went, and I explained, and I said, and I got into an argument, but then we were just laughing because they called me this, and my dad threw his hands on the table and was like, what did they say? And I was like, why? What's wrong with that? And he was like, Liam, no one can say that to you. And he's like, who was it? And he called the parents and they spoke, and then he came into school and he just sat down. My dad's an amazing man. He sat down and he spoke to that child, and who's actually a friend of mine, and spoke to them on their level of trying to make them understand why it's not acceptable to speak like this.
What a man.
I know. And their dad was sat there as well explaining, we can't talk like that. And he was like, I have to admit that's probably my fault because I do hang around with people that do speak like that. But however, hearing your story, I think I need to talk to them because it's not acceptable.
What did your parents do? Your dad sounds like such a wonderful man.
My mum and dad are like incredible. Like my mum is so intelligent, but has always been that person that is, in a way, which is where I think I get my creativity side from, has always been wanting to create things. So she was part of, like, really early on, for Toys R Us actually set up Babies R Us, and they're online and everything to do with all of that. And then my dad has always really worked shifts, like night shifts, and works in like factories to do with delivery, and he was a milkman as well early on as well. So he's always been involved of working with people that sounds awful in a way saying this, but when people work in the evenings tend to want to keep themselves to themselves, and my dad's the type of guy that will make that conversation because he likes to talk and get to know people, because he came from a really tough place in Kenya and having to leave to come over to the UK, and it wasn't easy for him and my family, and then the same with my mum leaving Belfast to come over to the UK. So it was, well, it's still the UK, but you know what I mean, like England. But that's the thing. So they sort of had the same sort of stories, but we did have our challenges. We weren't wealthy at all. We were, I would say, quite poor, but I never realized that we were poor until I was older, and my mum and dad gave me the best childhood I could think of. And then obviously when they separated, that's always hard for any child. I was very fortunate to have a great upbringing. And my nan, who's sadly no longer with us, she was my rock. She was essentially, my mum doesn't mind me saying this, but she was my mum. Like, she was the one that I would go to. I would always call her up. I would get advice. And funny enough, I was raised as a Catholic boy.
That is a surprise.
Yeah. And
you don't strike me as someone who does the catechism and things like that.
No, I don't. I really don't.
I mean, I bet you've got some beads, but they're not roses.
And basically, she was really open about my sexuality. She never asked me, but she spoke to my mum about it. Yeah. And for someone that was very religious, she was so accepting. So accepting. She opened her arms to Mike, my husband, and was just there for him, and was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing that you're happy, that you're in love. And I just think that is a beautiful testament to someone that is religious, that they can literally not judge anybody and be like, do you know what? Your family, you're acceptable. And that is it. And that's why I say I've been very fortunate to have different sides of people with different arguments of beliefs on Brexit or religion, on equality and that sort of thing. And we all still want the same thing, but it doesn't hinder my relationship with them.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with me for Eurovision. I'm doing Eurovision because I want to represent my country, but I'm also going on there because I have a message to tell. I want people to show that this is who I am. I'm an open book. This is where I come from. This is my background, and these are who I'm in love with, everything. And this is me. This is colour of my skin, but this is what the United Kingdom is today.
Going back to your childhood, how bad was the discrimination growing up in Coventry?
It was bad in the sense of it being, I would say it was no different, and this sounds awful saying this because it was bad, but it was school bullying. It wasn't to the extent of it being ridiculously awful, like I hear something like you say about your childhood. But I think that also was because it sounds awful, my older brother sort of paved the way that no one would hurt me. So in a way that he was sort of one of the top boys, that he knew how to defend himself. And if anyone said anything, he was like, do not discuss my brother. And I think it was sort of who he hung around with as well, or anything. And I think as well, because I was the type of person where, this sounds really arrogant and I don't mean this in a way, I was a good singer, a very good singer from a young age.
I don't think anyone listening to this that knows your voice is ever going to disagree with you, ever, apart from maybe bats, but due to a different spectrum. But you are clearly, you have a God-given voice. Like, it is exceptional. Like I sit there and
Thank
go,
you.
how does he make those noises?
Yeah, it's something that I think that's my dad, the music that I was brought up on. But I think from like I was going back to like a young age, I was always singing. And I think people respected me for that because it wasn't like, oh, this is someone that's just singing but isn't good. They knew I was good because I would be doing little productions or doing this, or I'd be on Songs of Praise, or I'd do this, I'd do working with Pete Waterman, and then I had a record deal at 14. And it was things like that that they then were like, wow, there's something really fascinating. And I think one of the biggest moments that always gets me every time I think about it was my last, we had a mass, and it was like a get together for the people that were leaving year 11 and like the school, should we say. And we had it. And then my head teacher was like, will you sing us a song? Like, and I was like, okay. And only really close friends knew, and like my brother's friends that knew that I was a singer, not the whole, because obviously there's so many people in your year. And I was like, okay. And I go to this church and I was like, okay, I'll sing Lean on Me. And I sang Lean on Me. And the interesting thing is some of the boys that had bullied me, that were footballers, stood up and were crying.
Wow.
In absolute tears, and were just applauding. And the whole place just stood up, started applauding, and the teachers were looking at me. And it was just sort of my way of going, look, we might have our differences, and you've done this and you've said things to me, and I probably said things to you. And do you know what I mean? We're kids at the end of the day, but look, at the end of the day, we all still need one another, and we're still going to support one another. And like, dare I say it, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you've seen that I'm good.
So funny you say that. I was talking to a musical theatre creative, let's just say. We were having a conversation, and they've just got an amazing job. And it was really interesting watching them sort of contort themselves into a shape, because they wanted to be really excited about their job, but at the same time self-deprecating that, of course, they probably couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I literally just shook them and said, look, you've earned this. You've worked hard enough. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You've done it because you're brilliant. Oh, I'm not sure about that. And we have that in this country, don't we? That sort of...
It's very British mentality.
Isn't it?
It is. In America, it's so not like that. Like, it's so interesting. And they celebrate diversity, and they celebrate people being talented. And I think this is the thing. I do think I love my job, and I love the theatre community, but I do think we can be a little bit more supportive to one another. And I think it could be a bit more in the sense of, because it always seems to be, why have I not got that audition? Or why have they got this? Or why am I missing out on this opportunity? Instead of actually going, do you know what? I would love that opportunity. If it comes about, it comes about. I'll ask. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that is the thing. But let's be pleased for people succeeding. Like, and if someone wants to be like, I know I'm probably annoying a lot of people on social media right now, because I'm talking about Eurovision a lot and I'm doing things, and I get that. But however, it's an amazing opportunity that if I get out there and represent, like I said, for everybody in our industry, it's like, how cool is that? Like, that we've done that. Michael Ball did it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Didn't do him any harm.
It didn't do him any harm at all.
Or Francis Ravel.
Yeah.
Or Cliff Richard, but different, but the same.
Exactly. And it's amazing to do something like that. And I think if we adapted, but then at the same time, it makes us so good, because we are very likable. Sometimes like an American mentality can be quite cold and not likable. So I don't know. It's finding the right balance. But I think we don't tell ourselves we're good enough.
There is a thing I've noticed, and it's not just actors, but most of my experiences of when I've been socialising, certainly with a group of actors, quite a big group of actors, it's very interesting. The first topic of conversation is very rarely all the really great things that are on, or the really great stuff that people are doing.
Yeah.
It tends to be, did you hear that such and such has got this? And it's a negative thing.
I know.
And I've been at parties where I've been with these groups, and all they want to talk about is, well, she won't last, or he's got that, or you won't believe it. I mean, I trained with him and he was like this, and now look at him, he's in this big show. And you want to go, look, you just said you trained with them. That was probably 10 years ago. Let it go.
I 100% agree. Exactly. Quoting Frozen there, Elsa, let it go. But it really is true. Like, and the thing is, that's the thing. Like, I had thoughts of, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to tour because I was successful in the West End, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And then I was like, well, the right job's come along. It's now coming up to, well, at the time it was 9 coming up to 9 years of my career at that time. And I was like, I actually want to do this show. It's a great opportunity. It's a challenge, but it's a tour. And I said I would never tour. I want to do the West End. And I was like, why can I not change my mind? It's when you're educated and you want to learn, and not saying you have to, but when you have more of an understanding, and dare I say it, and I don't want to patronize anybody, but a bit more life experience, you end up changing your mind, and you actually go, well, why can't I do that? And I've been that person that has gone, I cannot believe they've got that role. And I've gone, well, they've never had an alternate before, and they've never had it in any other production. So why, if they put an alternate on, they're obviously not going to last, or that's not going to be. And I speak openly about it, and I'm wrong. But I don't mind saying I'm wrong. And that's the thing. And I think as actors, I think sometimes we're afraid to allow our emotions and to speak. This is what I say. We should speak on it. We should speak our truth and speak to people and just understand it and be. One of the things, talking about going back to when I was on The Voice and I spoke to people and I went to therapy, the person that was dealing with it actually said to me, you're missing out on everything, Liam. And I said, how am I? And he said, because you're not curious. And I said, what do you mean? He was like, you need to be curious to your surroundings and what people say. If you have your opinions and you have these thoughts and everything, he said, you're missing out on the most beautiful part of life. He said, because that's how you engage in conversation. And that's how you open up and create friendships.
So tell me about training. You went to Laine Theatre Arts.
I did.
What was Laine like?
It was incredible. It was a great place for me because, like I said before, I knew I could sing. And I'd gone through the music industry like 14 up until the age of like 17. And it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't do what we wanted it to do. And then I sort of fell into like productions at the same time, like Amdram stuff. And so I sort of knew I wanted to do this for a living. And I was told by someone dealing with a case, should we say, regarding the music industry. And they said, why don't you go into like theatre? And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I didn't think you could really make much of a living out of theatre. Like, is this at the time? And I was like, then someone showed me a VHS. So that's a tape for the young ones. And it was literally like, they put it on and it was Cats. And I was like, it's always Cats.
Is there anybody in the industry that didn't go into theatre because they saw that production of Cats?
I know. And then I watched Les Mis at the time and I was like, oh, that's boring. I prefer Cats. That was what it was like. And then so I was like, okay. So, and then I watched Joseph and I watched Jesus Christ Superstar because Andrew was just like pumping them all out at that time.
And there was always the everyone also always tends to talk about having that cassette, which would have like Starlight Express, Tell Me on a Sunday, all those typical songs.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it was their very first experience in musical theatre.
Totally. And that was the thing. And then I was like, okay. And then I sort of looked into places. And then I sort of did a few years, literally so last minute, should we say, a few years. Then I went to Laine Theatre Arts and I got in there and I knew my dancing was great because I went to a really strict, hardcore school, but they're incredible, the Orsley School of Dance, like back home in Coventry. And my teachers there were just incredible, like singing, like for a place in Coventry where they do absolutely everything. It was like a pre-vocational to go into Laine Theatre Arts, really. And Darren Carnell went to the same dance school as well, and Alexis Hobbs as well. So anyway, so then I ended up going and auditioning for Laine's, and I just knew instantly I wanted to go there. And the reason I chose, because I got accepted in nearly all of them. Well, I did. I don't know what I'm saying nearly. I got accepted in all the ones I auditioned
Remember,
for.
you're allowed to say you're good.
Yeah. Practice what you preach, Liam. And then I chose Laine's because I knew that my dancing wasn't as strong as my voice. And I knew that would be great for a boy to go to that college and for them to do that for me. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't dance like at all, like that sort of manly way at all, but they were really good at partnering work, which is obviously very good.
And
yeah, exactly. So, and it was all of that. And I just loved meeting Betty Laine, like Miss Laine, when she heard me sing, and Tudor Davis. I could see that they wanted me to go to that college. And I got a good vibe. And then my years there, some of the greatest memories as like, like in places like that, it's just so fun. And I did some great production work with some great teachers. And
what were the productions you got given when you were there?
So we did Just So, funny enough. I'm seeing it up there.
Ah, I know it well.
I know.
Who did you play?
Who do you think I played?
I would have cast you as the elephant.
Yeah.
I would have cast you as the elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. And then it's funny because...
I've got to say, though, because I was a bit terrified of, shit, if I don't say elephant, I'm either going to call him a rhino. And I quite like you, Liam. So I didn't want to be like, yeah, perfect rhino, massive horn. Well, according to other friends, but we'll talk about that something else. But yeah, elephant.
Yeah, the elephant child, isn't it?
It is the elephant child. That's why I was trying to remember its name. I was like, is it Elliot? No,
it's elephant child.
It is the elephant child.
Yeah, so I did that. We did Lucky Stiff. We did a West Side Story, which was more to do with a dance thing, and then I had to sing as well. But we did like huge like showcases at the end, and I did like Simba in The Lion King and stuff, and The Wiz and all of those, and they like load of half a sixpence, funny enough.
Oh yeah.
So we did so many different things there, and it was really good. And my dance ability just was so good in comparison to like when I'd gone before. And don't get me wrong, I had a really good foundation, a really good start, and I sort of started off in the top groups and I stayed, and my voice was pushed because I had really good teachers as well, and the acting, I think we could do more still at Laine Theatre Arts in terms of the acting department, but the one thing they're good at is creating really good all-rounders, and that is something that I got from, because when I auditioned for Wicked, I went in, I had to leave early because Pippa Alien called and said, we're hearing about you and we want you to come in and audition. And I was like, okay, you need to call my agent. You can't be calling my number, not knowing that it was Pippa Alien talking to me on the phone. And I was like, okay. And I was like, can you call my agent? This isn't like... And then anyway, they called and they said, would he come in? And I went in and she walked in the room, she pointed at me and I was doing a movement call. And they went, can you just sing the material? I sang the material, left. And then they said, will you just come back for the final? Then I got it.
So you hadn't even finished your final year at Laine when you went into Wicked?
Yeah, I had to leave early.
Did you find that going from drama school straight into that show, did you ever feel like no sense of closure? Like, were you able to still graduate and things?
Yeah, no, look, do you know what was so good about Wicked was they actually allowed me to have a show off to go and graduate.
That's good.
So it was really good. And they were so good because I lost my granddad. Obviously, my granddad, like great parents for me. And I lost him whilst I was in the show, and they were great at letting me obviously be off for that as well. But it was interesting you say that, because I do find I'm so pleased that I have done so much that I've done, and I'm pleased that I had the opportunity to go into it. But there is a part of me that thinks, and I speak openly about it, I was a bit too cocky and a bit arrogant when I left.
Are you saying an actor that leaves drama school is a bit cocky and arrogant?
Yeah.
Never, Liam.
But I speak about it. I'm not that person that I think a lot of people think I really was. And it's not that I'm saying I was nasty. I'm not a nasty person, but I was just very cocksure of myself. And I was like, I'm in Wicked. I'm first cover Fiyero. This is do you know what I mean? This is the second or third cast. Like, you can't get better than this. It's still a hot show. And it's not that I went around like, do you know what I mean? Like boasting or anything like that. But I sort of had this thing, whereas now I'm a lot more understanding and a lot more humble, and understand that, do you know what? It's been hard. There's been times when I've not got a job and I'm like, why have I not got that job? And I think the thing that I learned the most was it was the voice that did that for me.
Really?
Yeah, really. Honestly, I learned hair and the voice is where I did the biggest growth in my life. And then also marrying my husband. That's
quite a big deal. That's quite a big thing for a young gay guy to do. You know, especially with having to come out and those years of, you know.
And imagine coming out to a black dad. I know that sounds strange saying this, but...
I mean, I would just love to have an actual dad. I don't care about the colour.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I do have one. We just don't know who he is.
Yeah.
If you are my father, please send me an email, info@arian-productions.com.
This is Kumiko Mendel, Artistic Director of Yellow Earth Theatre. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
I'm going to be talking to Liam about some of his more famous roles that he's played both on tour and in the West End. But now it's the first time I've been able to walk up stage centre, stare at the audience and declare in my best Globe theatre voice, it's time for Dramatic News. Today's top stories. The Guildford School of Acting is under fire because 80 students have signed an open letter asking for answers as to why its foundation course was restructured last year. Former tutor Katie Bonner writes, "You decided not to replace us with foundation course specialists, but with unquestionably experienced teachers who do not specialise in this very specific area of teaching. She added, "My question to you is this. Why did you decide to replace the teaching staff and content of a uniquely strong course? One which should have been celebrated by GSA rather than disassembled." GSA have responded to these claims, arguing that 2 specialists were appointed to lead the programme through a fair and open recruitment programme, and that its programme aims to bridge the gap between experience and ability, enabling students to demonstrate their full talent and potential in drama school auditions. Bonner has responded to GSA, saying she is dissatisfied with GSA's responses to concerns about the course's restructuring. Jez Butterworth's The Ferryman will close in the West End on the 19th of May, and the production will transfer to Broadway at the Bernard B. Jacobs Theatre, opening in October 2018. Tickets for the Broadway production of The Ferryman, also directed by Sam Mendes, will go on sale on Monday the 5th of March, with the cast and full schedule to be announced. Casting has been announced for Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds, which will embark on a UK tour next year. The production will feature an appearance by Liam Neeson via hologram, will star Jason Donovan in the role of Parson Nathaniel, alongside Carrie Hope Fletcher as Beth, his wife. Adam Garcia will debut as the artilleryman. Newton Faulkner will perform the sung thoughts of the journalist. Nathan James will play the voice of humanity, and Anna-Marie Wayne reprises her role as Carrie, the journalist's fiancée. It has been confirmed that Ian McKellen is to reprise his recent performance of King Lear in the West End this summer, with the run beginning in July. The Chichester Festival Theatre production of King Lear, which opened in the Minerva Theatre, will run at the Duke of York's Theatre for 100 performances. Further casting for the show is yet to be announced. Do you have some news that you'd like to share with us at the Show People podcast? Please just email info@arian-productions.com, and we'll do our best to share your news story with our listeners.
Hi, this is Robert Duncan McNeil, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
So we've touched on that your first job out of drama school was Wicked. Now, from Fiyero, you then moved to the world of Hairspray, playing Larkin. What was that like?
It was amazing. I think as well, it was my first lead role because I covered Fiyero. Then I obviously did loads of performances as Fiyero because Oliver Thompson was such a busy man. And then literally then going from that and then playing Larkin, it was a dream. Like the message of the show was so relevant to my upbringing, my dad. Like it was, you know what I mean, the music, everything about it. And also the creative process was exciting for me because I was the second person to play Larkin. I wasn't from a TV show as the person that played it before. And it was good because the director and the choreographer, so Jack O'Brien and Jerry Mitchell, was so hands-on, and Ben Klein. They were so hands-on with the whole thing. So that whole process was amazing. And working with Brian Conley and like Chloe Hart as well. Like she was the Tracy Turnblad. And we had some amazing memories created during the rehearsal room. Like that probably, even though I loved the show, has been the memories that I will always take with me. And I would say that my closest friends came from Hairspray. They are my closest friends.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And how did those friendships manifest? Was that because of a solidarity for the subject matter, or was it just you were all cut from the same cloth? How have those friendships endured?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of them was for love of music, if I'm honest. And also for the love of the show. But I remember Adrian Hansel, he was playing Seaweed, and I went in when I had to get changed, and I had to go up into the dressing room to go and get changed, and he was getting changed, and we shared a dressing room. And this was before, this was for a press shoot, funny enough. So we hadn't even started rehearsals. And they said, come upstairs, get all the costumes upstairs, and you go into the dressing room with Adrian, and you share with three other boys. And I was like, okay. And so I go into the room, and it was just me and Adrian in there. Then one of the production team, and they were just showing me what was the costumes at the time. And I was like, okay. And then Adrian just said, so what type of music are you into? And then I started listing all the music I was into. And he couldn't believe that we had the same, because I was talking, I mean, I don't know if many people know, like Eric Benet, Brian McKnight, Kenny Lattimore, Luther Vandross, everyone should know. All these great like R&B soul singers. And he just turned and looked at me and was like, nobody knows these singers. I was like, really? And I was like, yeah, that's the sort of music I've grown up on. And he was like, we're going to get along. Like, and he's like my best mate.
I've been very lucky to have some rather alcohol-fueled nights out with Adrian in the past. And I know he listens to the show, and he does nothing but fill me with joy when I see him.
He's such a great guy.
He's funny, and
he's so good.
And such a positive outlook. I imagine your dressing room. I doubt there was ever a quiet minute that came out of
some of the messages that we shared in a little WhatsApp group, and some of the videos that we have are kind of very interesting. That if people saw, they were literally like, "Oh my God!" It was amazing. And even the cast before that had left. Funny enough, and it's where I met my husband, Hairspray.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was in the show. He had done prior to me being there. I think it was 3 months of the show. And then I joined after his first 3 months. So then I did 9 months with him, and then I did an extra. I think it was, I want to say 3 months, and then it finished. And he, that's where we met. We had met prior to that, and he denies.
Was he in the cast? Or?
Yeah, he was in the cast. Yeah, he was, funny enough, my second cover. I know.
Could have been a fractious relationship.
But I was very much, like I said earlier, I was like, no one's going on. So I didn't let anyone on. And I'd be like, I am not going off. But it wasn't very hard for me vocally, that show. It was tiring.
Yeah.
Because it's a full on.
So high octane.
Yeah. But vocally, it wasn't as tough as some of the other roles I've played.
I just love the idea that in your early days of dating, darling, I love you, I'll do anything for you, but you're not going on.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think my first cover only got on because I had an agent that refused me doing a 9-show week, and I missed one show, and that was it.
I think that's more than reasonable.
Yeah.
So you would obviously go from Hairspray to something completely different, which is Dougal Irvin's Departure Lounge.
Yeah.
Dougal, who I know and love very much and adore his work. What brought you to playing Jordan Jones in Departure Lounge? And for listeners that may not necessarily know what it is, just explain the conceit that brings you lads together.
So Departure Lounge is a really, really funny musical. I would say it's like the In-Betweeners.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got that sort of vibe, and it's all about a relationship with this one girl who happened to be played by a really good friend of mine, which we met on Hairspray, Verity Rushworth. Mm-hmm. And so we were so close because we've just both done Hairspray, and then we both go into Departure Lounge. And it's a really great show. It's just hilarious. The music's great. Dougal's great writer, the script as well. And it was a great director, Pip. Mm-hmm. So it was really fun, the whole process. And I think as well, I remember them actually calling my agent at the time, which is now a different agent to the one before. And then he called me and he was like, the thing is, they've said, which is really funny, they were like, would Liam be comfortable playing a character that comes out as being gay? And I was like, I'm gay.
Yeah.
I am gay. I was like, it's okay. But funny enough, in my mind, I did go, is that the wisest move? Like, for me to be so open about my sexuality? And I was like, why are you bothered? Like, you're with someone. And then that's where it sort of started peeling away and me being proud of who I was. So it was a great show for that. And it was so fun. And some of the lyrics are just great. And we did obviously the cast album, which was amazing to do.
And is it important to you? Like, I know you've had some really big, decent paid jobs in the West End, well, as decent as the West End pays.
Yeah.
Is it important for you to support new musicals? And would you do, even at this stage in your career, if the project was right, another small fringe or off West End or small regional production if it was right?
Definitely. I think it all comes down to circumstances. And as we all know, jobbing actors, sometimes you can pay the mortgage, sometimes the mortgage isn't there and it's on the credit card until the next job comes in or whatever it is that way. But I'm very supportive of new writing material. Hence why when they asked me to do working, I was on my honeymoon and I got a message and I was like, well, I'm away. I'm not able to come and meet you. And they said, no, we really want you to do this. And I was like, boom, amazing. Like, what great creative team that's on it. But also the writers are unbelievable at the time. And so I was like, yeah, definitely do that. But it was at Southwark Playhouse. And if the right material comes along for me to do it, and speaking openly and honestly, and if I can afford to do it at the time, then of course I'll do it. Definitely.
I totally agree, because again, it would be so easy, wouldn't it, where you're starting out to just concentrate on what can I do to put food on the table and to turn down these bits and pieces. But then how wonderful to have your voice in relatively early stage in your career that's going to be recorded and preserved for, you know, one day when you're in a cardigan, you know, with your feet up, 2 dogs and however many Olivier's, let's hope that some kid is going to hear a young Liam Tamne in this thing called Departure Lounge.
Funny enough, the funniest thing is that happened in Working the Musical.
Really?
Because we had, let me think, we had 6 graduates and they'd come out of college. And then obviously there were 6 principal roles and 6 graduates. And what actually happened was we were discussing, and then someone came in and went, "Oh my God, Liam, is that really you on Departure Lounge?"
Aww.
And I was like, "Sorry." And then Dean Chisnell turned and looked and was like, "Yeah, that's Liam." And I was like, "Yeah, that is me." And he was like, "Oh my gosh." He was like, "This is my favorite musical." And he was like, I was looking and then I was listening to it. He's like, "I listen to it all the time." And then he literally looked down and then all of them went over and started listening. They're like, "Is that you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "You sound so different." And I was like, "That's my job." That's my job, is to not sound the same.
I can do other things.
But it was amazing. So it is an amazing feeling when you get that. Like, that is a beautiful thing. And still today, like even other things that I've done, like concept albums and stuff, and people message and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's you." And I was like, "Yeah, that is me."
You did Hair, of course. Tell me about being part of Cameron's production of Hair.
Oh, it's incredible. Funny enough, I actually watched the show. This is so strange, like thinking back. I watched the show and then I got a phone call, I would say it was about 2-3 weeks later. And they said, "Liam, I know you've just come out of," well, my agent said, "I know you've just come out of playing Link in Hairspray and you want to try and see if you can do some more juvenile leads." He said, "However, we've had a really interesting conversation with Cameron McIntosh's office." And I was like, "Oh, great, like one of his shows." Like, and then they said, "But it's for Hair, the musical." And I went, "Does that involve getting naked?" And they said, "Yeah, it does." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "So what role is it?" And I was like, "Am I a bit young to be playing some of these roles?" I was like, "What's going on here?" Then they were like, "No, Will Swenson's going to be leaving to go and do Priscilla on Broadway." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh gosh, Berger's quite a big sing." I was like, "It's amazing, but yeah, go on then." And he was like, No, you'd be going in as the ensemble." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I probably want to stay." And they were like, "Well," I said, "Can you go back and ask if it's possible for me to be able to take over once the Americans leave?" And then they were like, "Yeah, well, they'll talk to you about that." Cut to, they ended up closing the show. But I go into the show and I rehearse on my own for a week. And I think with Tara Wilkinson for a week and 3 days, sorry. And then I'm then on a Friday night. I go into the company, we rehearse Friday day, then I'm on, and then the whole shebang, getting naked, everything. But it was the best experience of my life, like that show, and really liberating to actually stand there on stage and just be naked.
Yeah.
It sounds strange, but it just didn't faze me, didn't bother me, and it was something that I just enjoyed. And like, I worked with like Casey Levy, like, do you know what I mean? Like Gavin Creel, like Sasha Allen, like so many of these great people that are going on doing great things. The whole company of Hair, the Broadway cast, they are all, no word of a lie, so successful in everything that they are doing right now. It's unbelievable. I've never done a show where I've seen everybody go off and do something but be so successful. It's amazing. And that's a credit to Diane, the director. And they filmed me. Funny enough, the audition process was they filmed me. I think it was on a Friday, like early afternoon. And Michael James Scott was there and he was sort of filling in for Diane with Tara, and I think James Orange was there at the time. Was it James Orange and Trevor? And then they turned around and then they said, "We're just going to send this to the Americans." And I was like, "Okay, great." That evening, I get a phone call. "It's yours. Can you start on Monday?" And I was like, "Okay." And then that was it.
And then you pranced around your lounge.
Go. It was amazing. A great show. The message in that show is incredible.
The last production I saw, other than your own, which I absolutely loved, we mentioned earlier with Andy Coxon at the Vaults, which was brilliant. But that production, I mean, literally grabbing hold of that audience. I mean, I've never felt a show radiate into an auditorium in the way that did.
And we felt that every single night. But I also think that is the way the Americans perform a musical. You automatically are drawn in so quickly.
There was a commitment of that company, which I can only attribute it to watching things like when I see a group of actors doing something like, I don't know, a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
Where as an ensemble, they have that they clearly depend upon each
Yeah.
other. And maybe the values of the show and the fact that you were all young, gorgeous individuals.
Well, funny enough that you touch on that, because my introduction, my actual process to actually being allowed into the company was I had to write about my character.
Wonderful.
About joining the tribe and what I'm bringing to the tribe and what I'm replacing and all of that. And they all had to do this. This is what Diane did with them all. So they had to open up. So you already built up this whole thing. And also one of the things which is amazing was you had great leading men like Gavin Creel and Will Swenson, because they led the company so well. And it's a testament really to Gavin, because he's also someone, I don't know if you ever look at his stuff, but he stands up for the LGBT community.
He does.
Hugely. And
the other thing I love about him, which I can imagine you were quite close on, quite often he would post videos where he's clearly, on a 2-show day. And between the shows, he's got 3 or 4 cast members in his dressing room with a guitar.
Yeah.
So, and you're like,
jamming.
Mate, like you can give yourself a rest. Yeah. And it's clear, we hear this phrase, which I loathe, which is, oh, you're so stagey, it's just a job. He's clearly someone that just loves music, performing, creativity, and doing the show for him is clearly no different to when he's on a break and, I can play my guitar now.
It's true. That's why I learned so much from him. That was my whole process. The whole company, like, it is incredible. Like, they walked for Pride in New York. They actually closed the show so that company could go and walk. Now, that is a testament not only to the company, but to the producers of that show, because they knew what the message was for. And then from them doing that, I then got the benefit of actually then going backstage at Alton Towers and having dinner with Pink and her backing singers and her dancers in the UK, because they met the tour manager of Pink whilst walking for Pride. And then I then got the benefits of doing that because of them doing that in America. And they were all about that. And that's what they embodied. And I never once felt so singled out or ever felt like I'm British, I don't fit in here.
And of course, from Hair, a little bit of a change here from doing something that is so much about the skill and craft of actors serving what I think was a seminal musical theatre production, to doing an equally exhausting show, but for very different reasons, Les Miserables at the Queen's for about 3 years.
It was two and a bit years, yeah.
Enjolras, obviously an enormous sing, the hero of the piece, or the foolhardy hero of the piece. How do you maintain that level of creativity in the mind just on a daily basis, let alone 2.5 years?
I know, it's crazy. I actually loved that show. And I think the reason I loved it was because it was so different. It was the first time people saw me doing something so different, because I was known for being someone that could do all these runs and these riffs and contemporary musical theatre, and like was auditioning for things like We Will Rock You, like Legally Blonde, like all these big musicals that were like big, like sort of pop rock voices.
You would have been amazing in We Will Rock You. I've just realised sitting here going, that's a role they missed out on.
Yeah, well, I actually auditioned for it, funny enough, but then I got another job, so I couldn't do it.
Just imagine.
Exactly. So it was, and then when I was asked to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, and I remember the audition process, and I went in and Cameron just took me under his wing straight away, and it was so beautiful because he could just see the potential in me, and I owe a lot to Cameron McIntosh for my growth, because he really did support me and look after me. And I remember being on stage and they asked me to do this stuff, and he was like, just relax. And he come and spoke to me and he was like, you've got this. And I was like, sorry. And he was like, you've got this, just do this. And then we have a chat after. And I did it. And then Trevor and him came over, and then they asked everyone to leave, the Enjolras, the people that were up for Enjolras to leave.
Apart from you.
Wow. And then they said, who do you like out of the people that are auditioning for Marius? Do you mind if you stay behind and you audition with them, Marius? And I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was thinking, does this normally happen? Is this what happens in this type of show? And so anyway, so I ended up doing that. And then they said, who did you like? And then I said who I liked. And then from that point, I then get a call like the day after, and they said, yeah, we want to offer you it. And I just broke into tears, because I was like, this was where I felt I'd made it as a musical theatre performer. I felt like I'm going to be taken serious here. Not saying that the other roles were never as serious, they are, but this was the one where people go, he's good.
the two drama schools I was at, the Guildford School of Acting and the Mount View Academy of Theatre Arts. I'm not letting any great secret out, but certainly when I was there, funny enough, with Chloe Hart and people, it's no secret that lots of people at both of those places considered Les Miserables as their show.
Yeah.
Everyone at Mount View was like, well, we're clearly Les Mis people, and Guildford people like, we're clearly Les Mis people. For you, no disrespect, being a Laine Theatre Arts boy to then be Enjolras, there must have been a couple of considerations from people going, Liam used to be in advanced jazz.
Exactly.
There is that prejudice that people have
100%.
based on the school you went to.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the interesting things, but that's always been my drive. If someone tells me that
you can't do this,
I will get it and I will do it. And that is the thing. And even if I don't want to do something, because you've told me I can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to do it. And I think one of the most exciting things for me about Les Mis was my maturity as an actor. Mm-hmm. The whole process was amazing because it was the first time Trevor Nunn had ever been back involved with the show. There was a huge hype around it because Alfie Boe went into it, and you had Matt Lucas, and do you know what I mean? We had like Hadley Fraser stepping in as Javert for the very first time. So it was a huge thing. And then like Alexia Kadeen was playing Eponine, and obviously Alexia was hot property and still is right now. Like everyone wants to work with her, and she just, do you know what I mean, done Wicked and everything like that. And it was a really diverse cast, different heritages and multicultural backgrounds and people of different styles of theatre and
production changes, of course, as well.
Huge, like, new orchestrations. They actually added, I want to say, another 3 to 4 instruments back into the pit.
But it was something to do with the strings that had been developed for that production, which were then brought in.
Because they took out a lot of the Cynthia stuff and they put that back
Schoenberg
in.
strings.
Yeah, exactly.
Strings.
So they brought it actually back in. So in all of that whole process, like it was like with John Caird as well, like it was all were there involved. And obviously Claude Michel was there and we had Herbie there. It was just such an amazing thing to be a part of. And that whole process was incredible. And then you asked, how did I stay? The truth is I stayed for personal reasons because my nan had been diagnosed with cancer. And as I've spoken earlier, my nan was my rock. And I wanted her to get the best care, the best possible outcome. Even though we knew it was terminal, I just wanted her to be looked after. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to stay, even though, and it was a bit of shady of me, shall I say, I said I didn't want to stay. But I knew that they were auditioning and they hadn't gone to the final. Then they called and they said, does he definitely not want to stay? Because Craig now has decided he wants to stay as Marius. And I was like, no. Craig Mather. And so I was like, no, I don't want to stay. And then all of this came out with my nan. And I spoke to my mum and I spoke to my, now my husband, but my boyfriend then. And I said, is it silly of me to stay in this production? And I spoke to my agent. I said, I think I want to because I want to give my nan the best thing that I can. And so I then called up and they were glad that I decided to stay because obviously saves them a bit of money. But also they really liked me.
Also sounds like the one time in your life you don't want another element of insecurity.
Yeah.
At least know you've got money coming in and at least you know I've got to go upstage here, downstage there and sing that bloody top C.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so then I decided to stay. And it was a shame because one of my good mates, Scott Garnham, he was my cover and he was up for the role. And I felt really bad because it was like, I know that he would have been great. And I think he probably would have got it if I didn't stay, if I'm absolutely honest. But I just had to. It was just a no-brainer for me in that time. And then sadly, my nan passed away within literally a month of me deciding to stay. So it was like that so then that became a real tough, it was like churning out the shows for me because the momentum of me wanting to be there had gone.
I defy anybody who's lost somebody not to listen to the final words of Fontaine.
Yeah, exactly.
There are so many moments in that show where it is fundamentally talking about loss, death, hope, and
there's
the
27 deaths in that show. That's the thing. I remember the hardest part was I got the call when I was there. I was at work and I was walking down the stairs and I knew my nan was obviously ill and I'd go back every weekend because she was my best mate, like my rock. And then I got a call and I just crumbled and I just could not get myself together. And I walked on stage and everyone was staring at me because they could see, it was like it was like I was vacant. And I knew people were looking at me, but I didn't care. But I was crying and I didn't know what I was doing. Then I just would walk to the front of the stage and I'd carry on warming up. And then my dresser, because I was really close to my dresser and Craig, and Zoe, that's my dresser, she came up to me and Craig came up to me and they just put their arm around me because they knew. And then, like, even now, like, it's me. And then it was like, I just collapsed. And then the resident director just got told. And then he came in and he was like, "You're going off." And I was like, "I think I'll be fine. I just need to just cry it out."
You're going off.
And he was like, "You're going off." And then I got a message from Cameron's office from them, and they were like, "We're so sorry. Take the time that you need." Because they knew how close I was to her, and they knew why I was staying. Then Cameron messaged and said, "I'm really sorry to hear what's happened. Take your time. Don't rush back." And it was a beautiful thing for me because you don't always hear of stories like that in other fields of work.
Well, no, I think more specifically, there is so much bullshit at drama school that is just simply not true. That is still being taught by people that have never worked in
The show
business.
must go on.
For example, you're never allowed any time off unless your mother and father dies.
I agree, yeah.
Bullshit. That's not true at all. There's no sign of weakness to go to your company manager and go, "I am struggling with this." There isn't a production company in the world that won't have the best interest of the company at heart. And especially CAM Limited.
Yeah.
Holly Russell Allison is a friend who works there, and knowing various other people that
Yeah.
are in the offices. All they seem to do is often juggle people from show to show to make sure that they're okay.
And they're
if
covered.
But also, if you're not having any shows off and you're not causing any shit for the resident director and you're, being reasonable with your holiday, then they're not going to have a problem.
No.
It's those that go, "Oh, I'm taking another day off as holiday," that end up going, "Oh, do you know what? I don't think
Or
I
I'm
need you
sick,"
anymore."
and then put a tweet out with them on the beach with a cocktail, like the company's not going to see. That is a true story. I felt so supported by everybody there. It was a hard time, and even then, and they knew. But I mean, I ended up loving it no matter what, because a new company came, and that's how I met, funny enough, Andy Coxon.
Yeah.
And then Oliver Saville, who's a friend, and he was my cover after Scott.
All these absolute mingers we have to put up with on the West End, bloody trolls. Yeah.
But yeah, so some of my really good friends are from that show as well, like the relationships and the friendships. And so it's fun. It was a great show, a great show.
And then you jump over to another iconic musical, playing, again, another minger, Raoul in The Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
Now, you don't actually do very much in Phantom, if
No, I don't.
How many minutes is it? It's something ridiculous. Because I know the Phantom is on stage for 11 minutes, isn't it, in total?
Something like that. I can't remember what... I thought he was a little bit longer. I thought he was around about 22, something like that.
Because I know there's a lot of sort of stuff that is either the alternate Phantom running around on... I mean, I don't want to ruin any surprises for anybody.
Of course.
But when you actually look at how... Because I think it's one of the most stunning musicals ever made, ever. And probably Andrew's best. Maybe Sunset Boulevard takes that, I don't know. But... it does make me laugh with poor old Raoul, because you think he's in so much more of it.
I know.
And then you look at it and go, "Oh no."
I know that was the hardest part for me. And
Not waiting around.
Some people might shoot me down, but I didn't enjoy it as much because of that reason. Because it was something where I just wasn't involved with the company. And then I sort of kept myself to myself. And then it was a great show. It is a great show. But it was just really hard to not be involved when you've come from so many company-involved things. And also, I think as well, because it's been in the same theatre for such a long time, it's set in its ways. And sometimes those ways don't work. But it does work because it's been going for however long it is now, 32 or 31 years. And so it is doing something. And I mean, look, it's the longest running show on Broadway. But it does have a different version on Broadway to what it does in London.
But also, there is only one theatre that is like Her Majesty's with that clockwork stage.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That, people, I know there are quiddities that come with Her Majesty's. For example, you're not allowed ever to have any glitter on stage, because if the glitter gets into the cogs, you end up possibly destroying the last preserved clockwork stage.
Exactly.
But then... do you know what the thing with that show, again, I can't say what it's like to be in it, but Hal Prince and the pictures that he creates on that stage.
He put me into the show.
Hal Prince himself?
Put me into the show, yeah.
Shut up.
No, I'm being serious. This is why it's amazing that I've actually been very fortunate to have all the creatives. He came over and put me into the show.
Did he see you in something, or was it...
No, he wanted to be involved. he was really adamant to be involved in putting us in. Rumour has it his wife loves London and she loves going shopping. So whether that just happened to coincide with the same time. But he is very hands-on with this production.
Really?
Yeah, and he came over.
Because I think he's one of the finest directors that has ever lived.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, you look at pretty much all of Sondheim's greatest shows.
Yeah.
Hal Prince's name is shortly underneath.
Exactly. And I remember, funny enough, because it's so American, they forget that they're holding a handheld mic. So he would be, these are his words, he would be holding the mic and I'd be doing the scene, I'd be doing stuff, and he would go, God, he's good. God, he's good, but what the hell is going on with that hair? That's what he's like. And he was like, sort his hair out. They're like, he's good, but that hair. And then he called me up like the back of the stage and he was like, you're great. And then he was like, your hair, sort it out. And I was like, well, this is what they want me to do. And they were like, then they called down and we had this whole change of hair and everything, but because he decided he didn't like my hair.
That's showbiz, kid. But what a wonderful thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hal
This is
Prince,
the thing.
Loved me, hated my hair.
Yeah.
And from Phantom, of course, then we go on to, well, you did HMS Pinafore at the Old Vic with the brilliant Chris Uscombe. But talking about another Chris Uscombe show, which is one I've been really looking forward to talking to you about, is, of course, the Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah.
So, not just the Rocky Horror Show, playing Frank N. Furter in the Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah.
Discuss.
So this is amazing, really, because
Did you always love it as a kid?
No. Do you know, I loved the film and I'd never seen the show. So I auditioned for something I'd never seen, which actually played really positive for me. It was actually in my court, should we say. This is one of the reasons why Chris says I got it, because I just came there with no idea of what it was about. So I didn't even know they did shout outs or anything, nothing. So I, going back to the HMS Pinafore, he come to see me in Phantom at the Opera and I'd auditioned and I'd got Rocky Horror. But I then did HMS Pinafore and he was just amazed that from me doing him only seeing me as Rocky Horror material to then going to do HMS Pinafore. That's why he asked me to do HMS Pinafore, was because of seeing me as Phantom of the Opera, as Raoul. So I did that, and then I was like, "This
very
is
different characters,
so different, like so different." But it was like,
I mean, both a fabulous sense of dress.
Exactly.
So tell me, you at least knew about the heels.
I knew about the heels, but I only knew Tim Curry's version, and that's
so you
the thing.
thought you were going to get big, thick platforms.
Yeah, big platforms, and he sort of is not as revealed as the costume that I wear, I wore, shall I say? And so it was a massive thing, and I think,
in all fairness, Liam, it is as revealing as most of your Instagram posts, so it's not. It's hardly that stretch of an imagination.
But yeah, so and when it came about, I said to myself, this is going to be challenging, but this is what you want. I told myself, you want to do challenging work. You want to be pushed to the point of being uncomfortable. And I knew Frankenfurter would do that for me.
Really?
Yeah, I knew.
Because obviously Frankenfurter, for me, as a device, as it were, his very purpose is to make everybody else and everything else uncomfortable, or at least questioned.
Yeah.
Or challenged is probably a better phrase rather than uncomfortable. But that's what that character totally does.
Definitely. But the interesting, if you flip that on its head, if you think about it, I'm having to make people feel uncomfortable by having to be in control of something and adapt to my surroundings, because every venue was different. The reactions, the call outs, everything. So I had to be confident enough in myself and my ability to be able to just think on my feet, which isn't what I had done prior with the other productions I'd done, because you just do a show, no one interrupts the show, no one shouts anything out, no one, do you know what I mean? All those sort of things. And I think that was the thing for me.
Almost you needed the same skills that, as I talked about in the previous episode with Rufus Hound, the skills of a stand-up comic, which is the ability to talk and listen to an audience at the same time. Yeah,
which is where I think my music can come into play, because when I gig, I have to talk to an audience to warm them up, to get them involved, to be involved in so many parts of whatever performance I'm doing or show or just even in a pub or anywhere. I open mics and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff that I did. And so it was really challenging, but it was great. And it was probably my top show of all.
And also, I don't know what was going on at the time with ATG, but by having you. I've never, and David Bedella, I know, is a mutual friend of ours, indeed, the lovely man with the gorgeous voice that you hear in between.
It's unbelievable.
But other than David, you and David seem to have the most amount of marketing ever thrown before. Because there wasn't, you would open any magazine and there would be a picture of you with, that extraordinary costume and makeup everywhere.
Yeah.
And actually, and touring can get a little bit of a bad rep sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only the tour.
Yeah.
But that particular tour seemed to be so well funded, looked after, obviously cleared up wherever it went. That's why it lasted so long.
Yeah, we extended because of it. And we actually smashed the box office at Brighton when we were there for 3 weeks. The money they made, they've never earned. We broke the box office. So it's the biggest show ever in Brighton and a lot of other venues this tour. It was huge. Like, I think what was so exciting was the fact that it was a great company, but I think also because we all know that Frankenfurter is the heart of the show. Everyone is important to that show, but it's the one that they expect. And when you've got someone like Christian Lavacum, who's a phenomenal riffraff, who sets the level so high after the time warp, you have to come out and you have to deliver, because he's put it so high that you can't come out and just do a show. You have to come out and go higher than he has. And I think that was the most amazing thing. And the process for me as well with Chris Luscombe as a director, he is a director. He is someone where he loves the whole process of understanding, getting to know and pulling out your strengths. I had plenty of times where I would sit with him and chat and we'd break down the character, times when I felt like he was humiliating me slightly in front of the company, but that was just an actor's insecurity and really like getting the best.
How big of you to say that? I think that's really big of you to say that there, Liam, because so often, I don't know about Chris, although everyone who's ever spoken about Chris has always been nothing but praise.
He's amazing.
But most of the time, the only thing that ever comes out of our mouths are questions.
Yeah.
And it's never, unless you're asking a really personal question, never should a question that you're throwing, such as, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
That's never to affect an actor in any way, shape or form. It is purely just to ask that question. And I love that you said, that was my insecurity, not him humiliating me.
Yeah, definitely.
Because all we're doing is asking for an answer.
Exactly.
And you can say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But no one likes to say that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. But he likes it being an area, a safe space for you to be able to just play. And I think that's what was amazing. And I felt so confident when I went out. I remember that first time in Brighton because it was huge. I've never been... Les Mis and Wicked have a huge cult following, but... The Rocky Horror Show is the highest. And that's why when people talk about Eurovision fans are like really, really protective over everything, I was literally like, but I've done the Rocky Horror Show.
There's nothing bigger.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like these people, and that, funny enough, a lot of people in Europe are contacting me saying, please tell me you are doing your song dressed as Frankenfurter. Yeah. They were like, we need someone. They were like, if you did that, you would get it. You would go through, like, this would be a no-brainer because that is what they feel like they're crying out for. But however, doing that show, I remember that first night standing on stage and then going out and hearing that dun, dun, dun. And then the door just swung open. Like even now I like get goosebumps. And it was like that. Yeah, like straight away into that. And because how the cloak is set up with that silver at the back and the light just going bang and it going and all I could see, everyone on their feet going crazy. And it was just the best feeling. And then just my growth as that character and stuff. It was amazing. Me and David play it so different. Different.
Totally. But then, but I suppose the thing you both have is a wonderful ownership of your own sexuality.
Yeah.
And I mean that not just in defining the people we sleep with, but knowing how you look, knowing the charisma you have, knowing how to influence people and using sexuality as a tool.
That's the thing, and it's interesting because I started off like that, and then during the tour, then when Chris wasn't with us for a bit of time because he's such a busy man, I then developed sometimes of taking him a bit too far. And so he'd come back, and he'd be like, no. And then I would be like, but why? This is what I've done. This is the whole thing. He'd be like, because it doesn't work. And it didn't work. And that's the thing. And my faith and my trust in such an amazing, now a really good friend of mine, Chris, but director, was the fact that I took on his words. And now I've found around about 4 or 5 months into it, a new Frank that I didn't even start with, even though they were happy with that one. That's probably the best Frank that I found. the reactions was just unreal from that point. It was coming up to halfway through the contract. And it was unbelievable. And it was so liberating and so beautiful to be able to know that I didn't have to go out and do the same thing every night. I think it's, and it sounds, I don't want to say it in the wrong way, but I think it's because it brings people together that sometimes do not have a voice or are too afraid to speak or to celebrate their individuality or who they are and equality, all of that sort of thing. And I think that's the whole thing. Like when you say, don't dream it, be it. Like when I sing those lines every single time.
And the repetition.
But I would cry all the time because it was like, it's something that I relate to. It's something that, do you know what I mean? We can all draw on and do you know what I mean? Like it's funny enough, it's one of the first things that someone tweeted when they found out that I was going to be entered into potentially representing our country. Someone just tweeted straight away, don't dream it, be it to me.
Oh, wonderful.
And I was like, so amazing.
That really moves me.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? That's the thing. And when you are a part of something like that, or you go, and funny enough, you say that I felt the pressure all the time because even though I knew they'd taken to me and they liked me, I always didn't want to disappoint.
Cards for sorrow, cards for pain.
Exactly.
I think Frank has the best songs of the lot.
Totally.
And it's not just Sweet Transvestite. I think I'm Going Home is one of the most beautiful songs ever written, ever.
I agree.
And indeed, it is my karaoke song, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
It shows you how tortured my soul is. And that and Rocky. And God, there's plenty of other directors who have seen my Sweet Transvestite. But I think the thing I love about Frank is his childishness.
Yeah.
And that's why the film sort of failed a little bit, because you think, oh, he's just a... You know, Tim Curry's just an amazing
exactly.
sound. But he does seem a bit like a lech, whereas you and David have such a playful quality.
Yeah, it's that adolescence, that sort of thing of it being, for me, it was always, I always wanted him to be on the edge point.
Yeah.
That of the knife, and you just would
Is
not know.
Is he going to kill you or fuck you?
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
And that thing of it being like, I'm controlling your every thought. I don't even have to speak to you. I know what you want to do. And I also loved the idea of having to play with different sexes. That it was all about that, how I would do a scene with Janet to how I would do a scene with Brad was totally different, because obviously you're having to seduce two different types of sex, basically. And that's the same with the audience. There would be straight men sat out there that I knew would come up to me at the end of the show and they'd be like, if I wasn't married... and I'd seen you now, I think I would ask to go out of it with the drink with you. And I think it might go further. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. And that's when you get that nice little balance. And I loved all of that. I loved being able to push myself to a point of being slightly uncomfortable. And I remember thinking like when I first got it, oh gosh, I wonder what my family would think of me playing something like this. And then when I then got them round to come in to see it, it didn't even cross my mind. I was more like, I can't wait for them to see this, because I was so proud of what I'd created with Chris and the company.
Hi, this is David Bedella, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
You've obviously gone from some massive shows to two little projects, actually, two very lovely little projects. First of all, you did the recent workshop of Starlight Express, which Paul Taylor-Mills, I think, made sure was printed on the front cover, no blades included.
Yes, exactly.
The very static Starlight Express. What was it like working with Lloyd Webber and wonderful George Youre, who Isaac helped you with, like bringing that show back?
It was incredible, I think, as well, because obviously everyone that was involved from the very beginning of Starlight was involved again. So it was an amazing process for me, and to see things and for them to update it. And we were talking about women's equality and all of that and rights and everything. That's why they changed Papa to Mama.
Good.
So because they didn't want all the girls to be coaches, because that is just basically saying you're following us.
Good for them. I love that change.
Yeah,
what a simple change that can make a really nice big difference.
Exactly. And I think it was amazing for them to do that. And it was great to be a part of something and to see Andrew's love. I've worked obviously with Andrew before on various things as well. And then obviously on Love Never Dies workshop, and then on Starlight, and I've been in an audition for him for certain stuff. And it's amazing to see that the passion that the guy has, it is incredible. And he is very good at what he does. I can go up to him and say, Andrew, I've had this idea of this, blah, blah, blah. And he'd go, come with me. And we go sit at the piano and he's there. And I'm watching Andrew Lloyd Webber play the piano and I'm singing to him playing the piano. Mm-hmm. It's things like that where I'm like, wow, these things don't happen like Liam. This is, he is one of the reasons why you started in this.
A show that I saw when I was at GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, otherwise known as Guildford School of Acting, was working.
Yes.
Now, when I saw GSA do it, it was very much a review.
Yeah.
You know, with lots of students getting their tongues around the American accent. So I'm sure it just comes down to execution or anything. Yeah. No disrespect to anyone who did it. Just it was a bit boring of people just talking about, you know, there's a couple of dodgy old songs in it, like the Housewife song, for example. Which,
see, I disagree with you. I love it.
Well, I think your production updated quite a lot. Yeah. Because I think there was the Cleaning Women song, which was just a load of white girls singing it at GSA.
We didn't have,
Like it was very much Surrey people doing New York.
Definitely.
Which was as successful as that sounds.
Yeah.
Now your cast was, let's be frank, probably better than most West End casts at the moment. Tell me about who was in the cast and what made it so exciting.
Yeah, so we had Gillian Bevan. Yeah. And obviously Gillian is just a force. Yes. She's incredible. Then we had Siobhan Harrison, who's a dream and absolutely beautiful. I did quite a bit with her in the show, which was fun. Then you had Kristen Cummings, which many people wouldn't realise, but Kristen was the first Mimi in the West End, the original Mimi.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so and then she went off and did it in Toronto and on Broadway and everything as well. And then we had Dean Chisnell. Yeah. Who people will know from Shrek and various other shows, never forget. And Peter Polycarpou, who's my idol.
The man, the legend.
Yeah, he is one of the reasons, if I'm honest, when I watched Oklahoma, I went, I can do this because there's someone that looks like me.
Wow, when he was Ali Hakim.
Yeah, that is the God's honest truth.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so I saw him and I told him that and I said, you don't know how much this means to me. That
must have touched him. That must have really touched him.
Like we speak and like his words of wisdom at times, like were just the most beautiful thing to actually have someone offer that advice. And we had a bit of a disagreement over a little something, but we had the 6 graduates as well. And it was just an amazing piece of theatre. One of the most amazing things was I got to do Lin-Manuel Miranda's new material that hadn't been heard. So I sing, one of them is with Siobhan, and then the other one is that I sing on my own.
So these were the new songs, weren't they?
The new material.
Because he had written 1 or 2, was it? Because it's, for those who don't know, working as a sort of compilation of people like Stephen Schwartz has written, and
Mickey Grant,
Craig Carnelia did one as well.
Carnelia, James Taylor. There were so many, and it was great. And funny enough, I've become a really good friend of Stephen Schwartz from this.
Well, that's a lovely friend to have.
I know.
That might lead to something.
Exactly. Well, that's how Prince of Egypt was a potential on the cards.
Somebody once said to me, maybe when I was thinner, but somebody said, a dear friend of mine looked at me and said, Andrew, when you get old, you'll look like Stephen Schwartz. And I've looked at a couple of pictures of him when he was younger, and there is a passing similarity.
I'm not sure.
There is, or as my other half said to me, the Riddler from Gotham
really?
The other day, which is, I get all the best people. Or I was on a date once, and somebody looked at me, cocked their head, and said, "Do you know who you look like?" And I just leaned in very closely and said, "Who?" He went, "Fievel from Fievel Goes West." I was like, "You're literally calling me a mouse." Thanks.
Great date.
So anyway, mustache.
Yeah.
But yeah, how so where was it? Where was it performed? Where was it?
So we were at the Southwark Playhouse, and which is obviously a great space to use. It's a lot of great productions are coming out of the Southwark Playhouse and that people have seen. And it was, what was so fascinating for me was to actually be involved with something where Studs Terkel, who obviously the book is about working life of American people, and it's so fascinating because I didn't know who this gentleman was. I didn't know his work, but when I did my research on who he was and where why he did it, shall I say, it actually is beautiful, and it's never been such the perfect timing of that show going on. And I think this is one of the reasons why we had Trump come into power. We had
American in the Midwest.
Exactly. We had a lot of things going on. We have Brexit. We have so many things where the working people have never more had a voice. And so when you're talking about a housewife, you're talking about a prostitute or someone working in a call center or someone who's very from a privileged background or someone, do you know what I mean, an agent, a sports agent, like so many different walks, a fireman, do you know what I mean, a teacher. All these things were so relatable to everybody at the time. And so I got to...
You just reminded me of something. I remember when I saw the production at GSA, there was the song Cleaning Women.
Yeah.
And it's got that lyrics like, cleaning women without faces. And I remember when I first heard it, I thought it was cleaning women with our faces. I just had images of these poor women just desperately trying to sort of clean...
Scrub their face.
Scrubbing floors with their faces, going, Christ, it's really tough for people in America.
Well, do you want some exclusivity right here?
Can you actually say this?
I can.
Is it coming back?
No, it's not coming back. But when is this going out?
On the 12th, probably, of February.
Okay. So it was fine. Well, the exclusive, they're announcing it on this Friday. There's a cast album.
Oh, is there?
Mm-hmm. The first ever at Southwark Playhouse. Because that is how my friendship was created with Stephen Schwartz. He came over to be really heavily involved with the cast album. And then we ended up going for dinner. He took me and my husband out for dinner and started chatting about everything. And he offered great advice to my husband, who's writing a book at the moment as well about writer's block and everything.
Stephen
He was a great
Schwartz
guy.
Casually gave your...
Do you know what I mean? It was so many things like that. And that's the thing I've really formed. We just like message or send me something. Thinking of you, this, blah, 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 this and this. I really want you to do this. Are you available to do this? Or all that sort of thing. And it's great. Like that came from that. And some of the friendships that I've got, but also the album, which we're all really excited about because...
As you should be.
Yeah, it's like, I think this would be like my third cast album. And then I think I've like my seventh album in total.
And what's rather lovely is your mate from who mentioned, I listen to Departure Lounge all the time. Now he gets to record one with you doing working.
And funny enough, he then went on to work with Chris Luscombe for 12th Night in Stratford. So it's like...
It's almost like this business is too bloody small.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Alex from Theatre Accounts. We're a friendly team of accountants who work with clients in the entertainment industry, and it's our mission to make tax simple. We offer a no jargon, simple approach with no hidden fees. Here's my tax tip of the week. Knowing what expenses you can claim can be very confusing, and allowable costs vary depending on the type of work that you do. Quite often, people either claim too many expenses or too little. Costs such as agent's commission, travel, mobile phone bills, digs and food on tour are examples of allowable expenses. However, if you use something for business and personal use, such as your mobile phone, you can only claim a business proportion of this. For further examples, we've pinned a link to our blog post about expenses on our Twitter page. We're happy to help and answer any questions that you may have, and you can contact us via our website www.theatrecounts.co.uk, or you can follow us on Twitter @TheatreCounts. If you're a new client to us and fancy a £50 discount off your first year's fee, just quote the Show People podcast.
It's now time for the Show People platform, the part of the show where we offer the chance to any playwright, composer or artist to share their original work with our listeners. And today's platform is given to, well, Liam and the composers of his original song for his entry to Eurovision 2018. It is sung by the man opposite me. Just to give you an idea of the writers, there's Ashley Hicklin. Ashley has written and produced for many major international artists, such as, now you can pronounce this for me, Liam, Tiesto.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not down with the kids, guys. I'm still listening to Irving Berlin. And has co-written more than 10 number ones internationally. He's already been involved with Eurovision before, having co-written Tom Dice's Me and My Guitar for Belgium in 2010. And good luck with this, Axel Jesus's mother.
Listen, I don't know that one. That one's a bit...
That is a name as part of a heritage that I don't know enough to pronounce. But let's just say somebody, Axel Jesus's mother, again for Belgium in 2014. My Flemish is not good. Another co-writer I have is Jacob Pedersen.
Yes.
Now, Jacob is a fresh new talented Danish lyricist and topliner. And also Jeanette Bond, who is no stranger to Eurovision selections. Yes. Jeanette competed in the Danish Eurovision selection. Danks Melody Grand Prix in 2017. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, score. With the song Hurricane, written by herself, a highly regarded backing singer in Denmark. She's recently toured with Stein Branson of pop band Alphabet. Rune Braga, who is an experienced Danish writer and producer. Rune has worked with American songwriter Keith Felles. Am I saying these things right?
Yeah, you are.
Go reading books, who's written for Faith Hill and Lady Antebellum, to name a few, in Nashville. Rune wrote the Andorran Eurovision entry in 2009, Lativa Decisio for Suzanne Georgi, and has written 8 songs for Danish Eurovision selections. Listeners, I cannot tell you how delighted I am those paragraphs are over, because I was terrified of all of those words. Anyway, enough of listening to me and Liam. Now it's time to just listen to Liam singing his beautiful song, Astronaut.
That's a whole lot of tears, babe. That's a whole lot of fear. Lying on my car, staring at the stars. So go ahead, let it all out. No more hiding away now. Let your worries fly, we'll burn them all tonight. When all your world falls apart, oh, I'll come pick you up. Oh, I could be your astronaut. Let me take you far away. I say I could be your astronaut. Take your body into space. When gravity's pulling you down and you can't breathe, I will be waiting. You know you can call me. I could be your astronaut. Your astronaut. Your astronaut. Take my hand, hold it real tight. Let's take off, let's get so high. Hey, where'd you wanna start? Jupiter or Mars? When all your world falls apart, oh, I'll come pick you up. Yeah. Oh, I could be your astronaut. Let me take you far away. I said I could be your astronaut. Take your body into space. When gravity's pulling you down and you can't breathe, I will be waiting. You know you can call me. I could be your astronaut. Your astronaut. So don't hesitate. I'm right behind you, babe. There's planets and galaxies far from reality. Now's the time to soar. I could be your astronaut. I say I could be your astronaut. Oh, I could be your astronaut. Let me take you far away. I say I could be your astronaut. Take your body into space. When gravity's pulling you down and you can't breathe, I will be waiting. You know you can call me. I could be your astronaut. Your astronaut. Your astronaut. Your astronaut.
Are you a writer or composer or artist who creates original work? Well, I want to hear from you. Please send me any recordings that you have with full permission to play on the show, along with some information about yourself and the work you do, to info@arian-productions.com, as I am passionate about supporting new work and sharing it with you lovely listeners.
This is West End producer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the sumptuous, the savoury, and the slightly sugary Andrew Keates. Dear.
Very good. Thank you, Ep. So it's now time for my favourite things. Liam Tamne, I want you to imagine you are stranded on tour in peculiar digs in Whitley Bay. In your room, you already have a copy of the complete works of William Shakespeare and the Bible.
Okay.
I want to know what you need to survive by bringing your favourite, first of all, album.
Album.
I know that's going to be tricky for you.
That is tricky. It would probably have to be... Gosh. We're going to go musical theatre or music. Can it be anything?
So I'll tell you the subjects you've got coming up. You can choose album, film, book, play, musical, and luxury item.
That is tough. It would probably have to be, because I'm just a massive Whitney Houston fan, so probably Whitney Houston Greatest Hits.
I mean, you can't really go wrong with that one.
Exactly.
Because you can cry and have a hell of a party within one album.
And maybe her live version, so you get all the live ones.
And what would be the film?
The film would probably have to be West Side Story.
Do you know, I think that's our most popular answer, West Side Story for the film.
It's incredible, though.
It doesn't surprise me.
It's beautiful. Like, it's my mum's favourite. And when she showed me it, I think I just sat there in silence. And she was like, okay, great, I found something to shut him up.
Mine was E.T. of all things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I should have been an astronaut. Or
yeah, there you go.
So that's your album and your film. What would be the book?
It's hard, because do I bring something that I know I absolutely love, or do I bring something that I think would benefit me? Oh, gosh. I'm torn between Harry Potter books. I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. Or, no, do you know what? I bring The Power. I think I would need it if I'm stranded. It's a bit like The Secret, if the people know what The Secret is, but it's the next version of just owning your own truth and your power in this situation, and being able to look at everything in a positive outcome and outlet, and being mentally stable to be able to absorb and put things out to the universe.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which makes huge sense to me, because all of the moments where I've been at my worst and most despairing, I've then attracted enough more, it's almost like a magnet.
I agree.
And yet when I've been on top of the world, it's amazing
more comes in.
How much more comes in.
I know.
Okay, and what would be the play?
The play? Ooh, I would probably go with, do you know what? Can I be silly, because I've not seen it, but I want to see it, so maybe I should do that.
Mm-hmm.
The Ferryman.
Oh, The Ferryman's really good, and it's long enough.
There you go.
It's one of the best things I've seen.
I'm desperate to see it, and I think it's closed now, hasn't it?
Going with The Ferryman, and what would be the musical?
Into the Woods.
I wish more than anything. That show!
I love that show.
We disappoint, we disappear, we die, but we don't.
I just love it, and children will listen, and it's just so true. It's so true. Hence, all these things that we believe. Like, look at that story regarding when a friend of mine called me a racist name, and then my dad was like, and that was because the dad of the child owned up and said, that would be my mates that have said that, and they listen.
I'm going to tell you a theory of mine. Sondheim, I've really looked into this. Sondheim has never confirmed this anywhere, which is really, really irritating. What do you think Into the Woods is about?
What do I think it's about? Life.
Well, that's true of all art, Liam.
Yeah, but I think it's more to do with like philosophy, like in terms of things that are happening. And
what was happening to Sondheim when he was writing it?
I actually don't know.
He was in the midst of the AIDS crisis.
I see.
So I just want you to think, and this will change. This is my theory.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to people before, and they've gone, oh, God, I think you've ruined the show for me. But think of Stay With Me.
Yeah.
Think of the moment the baker's wife is killed just after sleeping with the prince. Think of all the friends that Sondheim would have been lost, and things like no more questions, please, no more tests, no more curses we can't undo, left by fathers we never knew, no more feelings. If you think about Sondheim, where he was, the fact that the giant is undefeatable, totally undefeatable. It's AIDS. It's AIDS coming to, a fairy tale community. I think even that.
I think you could be right. Tales. There is something in that, isn't there? But do you not think he would have said?
No.
Because that's what makes it so beautiful.
No, it's like I saw a great interview with Pinter recently on an old YouTube clip, and he sits down with these morning presenters, and they've got their clipboards. They go, "We're joined by Harold Pinter," and he goes, "Hi, it's great to see you. I mean, you can ask me anything, just don't ask me anything about my work." And I think sometimes like that. I don't think he would telegraph, but I just think when he was writing it, and I defy, careful the things you say, children will listen. It's all in there.
It's true. You could be right. I think you probably are right.
But again, I can't get confirmation of that anywhere. It drives me mad. It's not in Finishing the Hat, and it's not in his best joke ever, Look, I Made a Hat.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, and sorry to ruin the musical to everybody who's listened there. I'm sure you'll be weeping now every time you listen to any of those songs. And what would be your luxury item?
Seeds.
Seeds?
so I could grow the food that I want.
That's a good idea.
Boring, but...
No, but I mean, it's not what I would call a luxury item.
Because the thing is, I don't like... Or maybe, all right then, let's go for this, because I'm obsessed with jelly sweets, but they have to be vegan jelly sweets.
I have a problem with jelly sweets.
Yeah.
And it's an addiction.
Yeah, same.
As in Haribo.
You're like, I need them.
Every day. Liam, I mean, I don't keep this svelte figure without eating at least one packet of Haribo.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what? You should try the vegan ones. They're not that bad for you.
Really? Are they not? It's like Kids Super Mix.
Yeah.
Is the reason that that I am the size I am now.
You're not the size.
No, but one chooses darker clothes at this time of year.
Hi, this is Annette Badland, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
Well, it's time for everyone's favourite part of the show, and that is Funny 5 Minutes. Liam Tamne, you must answer all the questions I'm about to ask you as quickly as humanly possible within 5 minutes.
Amazing.
You are only allowed 3 passes. Liam Tamne, let's play.
Let's do it.
45 minutes. Did you have a teddy bear when you were a child?
I did.
What was his name?
It was Rupert.
Rupert. Aww. What is the greatest children's show ever made?
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, although dark. Watch your back. It's dark.
It is dark.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Do you? Have you ever seen a ghost?
I believe I've been visited by something, yes.
Really?
Yes.
What is the stupidest thing you've ever done on stage?
Forgot the whole song of Planet Schmanet in Rocky Horror Show.
Did you just stand there and...
I just ad-libbed the whole thing.
Yeah, because no one in that crowd would have realised. What's the most unusual thing you've ever had in your mouth?
Probably baby sick.
Baby sick?
Yeah, a baby threw up in my mouth. It was actually my cousin's child.
Were you laughing at the time? Or?
We were playing and I lifted the baby up and it threw up into my mouth.
Jesus.
Yes.
That's a very different kind of Lion King, isn't it? If you were to order a pizza, what would it be?
It'd be a vegan pizza.
God.
Boring.
Aren't you? How many pairs of shoes do you own?
Oh, wow. Probably a good 30, just under 30, I'd say.
And they're all leather, just to make up for all the food that you can't eat. That's not true, listeners. Favourite question. Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Oh. Horse-sized duck. Or a horse-sized duck.
Why is that?
Because I think the 100 would batter me.
Yeah, I mean, just repeated sort of... I'm with you on the 1 duck.
Yeah.
As in, it's at
Let's
least
give it
1
a
point
go.
of focus.
Exactly.
If you were to have an autobiography, what would it be called?
This is me.
Original.
Original.
Very, very good. Who would play you in a movie version of your life? Probably a white person.
Yeah, probably. How everything's going on right now. No, I'd probably go for Zayn Malik.
Zayn Malik. A bit old.
No, he's not. He's younger than me.
I was thinking of my friend Alex Zane. I apologise immediately.
There
we go. What's the strangest place you've ever had a wee?
Strangest place? I can't answer.
You can't answer that. Okay. Who was your teenage crush?
Funny enough, Danny Minogue.
Danny Minogue.
Danny Minogue.
Dark days. What's the lie about you you've always wanted to clear up?
The lie. Probably that I was to blame over a certain something that happened many, many years ago.
That's dark.
That's dark.
That's dark. What's the best gift you've ever received?
My husband.
Aww. Might even do like a... Do you have a favourite sport?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
My God, a homosexual that likes sport. How novel.
Yes.
What is it?
Tennis.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you were an animal, what would you be?
I would probably be a raccoon.
Why a raccoon?
I just think they're so cute.
Did you watch The Raccoons as a kid?
No.
With their sort of odd bent penis like nose?
No.
The
Is it
cartoon.
really bad?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's amazing.
Okay, there you go.
It was at a time where, cartoons could be, slightly...
Everyone says I look like a bit like a raccoon, though.
Do they?
Do I? Do I not?
I mean, no, because you very clearly look like a human being. I'm the one who goes on dates and are told that I
You
look
look
like
like a mouse.
Fievel from Fievel Goes West. On that note, Liam, that music tells me that sadly, that is all the time that we have left. I know it's sad. Firstly, thank you to your Eurovision producers and all of your composers for allowing us to play Astronaut on the show. Really hope you do well, mate. Make sure you vote. Ladies and gentlemen, please go mad for the, well, fabulous Mr. Liam Tamne.
Thank you very much.
Liam, how can people keep up to date with all that you're up to?
Yeah, so you can follow me on my social media platforms, which is obviously Twitter at Liam Tamne, or Instagram, which is Liam Tamne Official, or Facebook, which is Liam Tamne Official.
And what can people do to keep up to date with some of your songwriting? Is there a website out there?
Yeah, so we're basically a lot more is going to be happening this year on the songwriting front. Great. But just keep looking out on my social media platforms, and I'll direct you to maybe something like my YouTube channel or my SoundCloud.
That's amazing. And of course, I am rooting for you for Eurovision. At this stage, guys, we just don't know whether Liam's got it or not. So I'm really hoping that we can celebrate that. This podcast is produced by Arian Productions Limited, dedicated to giving opportunities to theatre makers. If you can support the work we do, then please become a friend of Arian by making your donation. Just visit www.arianproductions.com/donate. And lastly, if you have any comments, ideas, or things you want to send into the show, you can reach me on Twitter at Andrew Keates. You can send me an email to info@arian-productions.com, or like the Show People page on Facebook at facebook.com/showpeoplepodcast, where you can join the listeners forum and find out about all things Show People. Our next episode will be out in the next 2 weeks. Thank you for listening, and until next time, just be better.
God, he's good, but what the hell is going on with that hair?